Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Helena Tamanova and Ukrainian Media Center Ukrinform continues its operation today. It's day 510 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor, and now we will be talking about the situation in the south. We know this night the occupiers inflicted a massive strike on the south of our country. So what is the situation over there? Our speaker, Natalya Gumenyuk, the head of the United Coordinating Press Center of the Security and Defense Forces of the South of Ukraine, will tell us about that. Good afternoon, Ms. Natalya. Good afternoon, glory to Ukraine. Ms. Natalya, so what is the situation for the time being in the South? What was going on in the night? Can you please give us a couple of comments of that? Well, the situation remains quite tense. The enemy did not leave their plans. They stay in their defensive positions. They continue reinforcing them. They continue renewing them in the places where their positions were damaged by the high water resulting from the detonation of Kakhovka Dam, and they try to return to those positions, and from them they continue inflicting strikes on the civil population. They continue inflicting strikes on Mykolaiv region in Ochakiv district, and the night strike was targeting two regions of the south, Odessa and Mykolaiv region. In Mykolaiv region we managed to destroy 4 Shahed drones. One of the industrial facilities was targeted, but the firefighters were able to put out the fire quite promptly, and there was no information about any casualties. In Odessa region the attack was more intense, and it was most likely targeting the facilities of port infrastructure. There were no incoming strikes, but there consequences of the air combat, during which 21 Shahed 136 drones were destroyed, and then the enemy has used caliber missiles from surface and submarine carriers which were cruising in the Black Sea basin. So the debris of the missiles damaged in part the port infrastructure, and part of the debris damaged the residential areas, which resulted in injury of an old man who was hospitalized, and his condition is being currently stabilized. There is no more information about casualties for the time being, but we can say that even given the very successful work of the air defense forces, the threat is still high, because lately the enemy frequently targets their strikes on the residential areas, on the facilities of critical infrastructure, specifically the port infrastructure. Well, if we check the calendar, we understand why they try to deal with the port infrastructure of Odessa. Fortunately, it had no impact on the manufacturing capacities of the port. However, the shockwave and the debris of the downed missiles produced certain damage. Ms. Natalya, yesterday all the Ukrainians were tracking the events unfolding in Crimea, maybe not only Ukrainians. So don't you think that this intense night attack may be a consequence of those night events? Well, regardless the fact that there was a message of response, of intense response from all the propaganda publics, we understand that those attacks were not related to those events. The enemy was preparing. They were not using the missiles, this marine-based missiles, for a long time, but we observed that since they have started the rhetorics of about termination of the grain deal, the port infrastructure of Odessa was targeted for a number of times, and the threats were sounding from different channels, and we were realizing that we can predict the targets of the future attacks. Ms. Natalya, we understand that you track the events unfolding in Crimea, so your observations, what do they tell you? Well, we see the enemy gets nervous, the military command of the forces deployed there is getting nervous, we see the collaboration is getting nervous, they realize that the movement of the defense forces cannot be deterred by them. They realize that our advance in the Zaporizhzhia direction is inevitable, as well as in other southern regions, and they forward their civilians in the doorways around the new regions, which are, as they call it, in fact they are the occupied districts of the Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions, to make sure that the military convoys that will follow those pathways will be mixed with the civilians, and this is their favorite tactics, to hide behind the backs of the civilians. It would work for them. The shield made of civilians is something that they use on a constant basis. Ms. Natalya, we know that the information about our counteroffensive is very sensitive, but if you have any information that can be promulgated about our advances, please share it with us. Well, you know that the advance, even for a couple of meters, it cannot always be promulgated, and it may not look like a success on that very same day. It means reinforcement, it means the securing of those who are involved in the process, I mean our defendants. So it's not that every day we can make you happy with news like those, but just talking about the results of the battle work, of battle operations, the results of the damage of the Russian positions in the East Bank, well, they can make you happy. Every day about 100 Russians go following the Russian battleship, and you know the occupiers, they establish their positions in the households of the Ukrainian civilians. They pillage the boats and they maneuver around the islands in the riverbed of Dnipro. We make them surprised with a powerful battle operation. We inflict artillery and aviation strikes, but we may state that they do not refuse the use of different types of weapons. Where they cannot use artillery, they continue using the strike drones of Lancet types launched from east to the west bank, and they continue using guided aviation bombs against the civilians in the west bank using their tactical aviation. Dear colleagues, do we have any questions on the floor? Yana Lukashenko, Ukrinform, can you please tell us what's the situation with the missile carriers in the Black Sea Basin for the time being? Now there is a powerful ship team deployed in the Black Sea, 16 items, 16 vessels in the Black Sea, plus one in the Azov, Sea of Azov. We have 2 missile carriers on duty for the time being, the same that were launching an attack against us, but given the 6 missiles used in the nighttime, they can carry 6 missiles more that can be used at any moment, and so the missile threat is still on. But we should understand that probably after an attack like that, they will bring the missile carriers back to their bases, but we keep track on the information and we will inform you of any changes. Ms. Natalya, thank you very much for finding time to join our broadcast. Dear colleagues, I'm reminding you, joining us was Natalya Gumenyuk, head of the United Coordinating Press Center of Security and Defense Forces of the South of Ukraine. Now our team is working on the schedule for tomorrow, so follow our announcements. Stay tuned. We want to thank all the security and defense forces. Work together for our victory, and glory to Ukraine.